Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the two new Paradox Pokemon that were announced earlier today from the Nintendo Direct, and basically they have some pretty cool designs. It's basically the Paradox version of Suicune and Virizion. We got Walking Wake, which is actually a pretty cool name, and then Ironleaves, a not as cool name but still pretty cool design. It's very mechanic, of course, like all the other Iron Pokemon. Now, I was waiting to do this video a little bit later because I wanted the stuff available on Showdown just so that, you know, we could do a little bit more of an in-depth analysis. And they are officially available now, which is why we're switching over to the Showdown tab. So this is Walking Wake over here, and then we have Ironleaves. So what we're going to do is take a look at their typing and, you know, their overall overall base stats. Same thing with Ironleaves here, and then just talk about like how viable they could be in terms of like the VGC meta in Scarlet Violet. You know, maybe just do a little bit of soft team building, you know, just to present some, you know, team building core ideas, you know, just in case, you know, they become very legit, and then we can just go from there, right? Now when I say legit, I mean like, you know, legal. But what we're going to do is we'll split it up into two sections of the video. We'll talk about Walking Wake first, and then Ironleaves in a little bit, right? So let's take a look at Walking Wake first. Okay, so just off the bat with Walking Wake here, and it just makes me think of one other similar type of Pokemon. I see Water Dragon typing, and it just reminds me of another very strong Water Dragon legendary typing, and that was Palkia. So remember with Palkia, it's also a Water Dragon type. It has a lot more of base stats than Walking Wake, but that's still okay. You know, it's very comparable, and it just gives me reminders of it. Water Dragon is actually very good typing. Because what you can do with Water Dragon, the resistances kind of cover for each other, because with water being weak to, you know, electric and grass, the dragon typing kind of helps you there a little bit and makes it instead into neutral damage, which is very, very beneficial in a way. And the only thing that really that the Walking Wake is going to be weak to is just dragon and, you know, fairy typing, right? And then there's other ways that you can get around that because you have terrestrialization. And we'll talk about terrestrialization a little bit within the video, but, you know, just overall, you know, the Water Dragon typing is already like a plus in it. I think I give it over the edge of the Ironleaves, because at the very least you have some good synergy with the typing. Just like something like, you know, Dark Fly or Steel Fairy. These are all good dual typings that kind of compensate a little bit for each other. So there's that. Okay. And now just off the base stats alone, it has you know, 99 HP, 91 defense, 83 special defense, so it's already a very, very good bulky Pokemon. You know, kind of like Palkia to a degree, you know, with 90 base HP, 100 defense, and 120 special defense. So it has some decent bulk, a little bit more HP, yes, and a little bit less defense and a lot less special defense. But again, this special defense is actually like relatively above average. And then just from the special attack, 125 is actually very, very good. Palkia, of course, is just 150, and then the speed 109, which is one of the big selling points, because again, that makes you faster than Palkia, you know, which is just a base 100. So in terms of like potential EV spreads, you know, this is already faster than stuff like the base 100, stuff like Charizard, stuff like Volcarona, you know, Zapdos, Entei, you know, all these Pokemon that are like within that base 100 category. Now you outspeed that, and then even Garchomp that also naturally outspeeds those base 100s are also faster than Garchomp. So there's that, you know, going for it, of course. And basically, just off the top, you know, it's a very fast, good hard-hitting special attacker that has like really, really solid bulk and good typing. So I could totally see, you know, a lot of bulky spreads, you know, falling on the Walking Wake over here. In just some terms of like, you could put this on Tailwind teams, you could put this on Trick Room teams potentially, because I really feel like, you know, just based off of this move over here, his signature move, which is, I believe, called Hydro Steam. Okay, now you can't see the description here, but basically you also get a boost in the sun, which is really, really cool, because now you can possibly put this on like potential sun teams with Torkoal, and, you know, just being a natural water type, you know, you could also put this on like some rain teams, and there's another move that it gets that also considers rain viability, but we'll take a look at that in a second. But now again, with photosynthesis, you know, Sunny Day is active. You know, you're going to get a nice boost here. And again, Hydro Steam is, you know, getting a nice boost there. So, you know, Torkoal and with Walking Wake, there's some good synergy there. So I can totally see this because, again, with Torkoal, you know, you already have like water, fire typing, and then you could have grass typing potentially here, especially if you change this into grass. Okay, for obvious reasons, right? You don't want to get stuck by Amoonguss. You can get around Amoonguss potentially. So you already have a fire, water, grass core just with these two Pokemon, and then you also start your Dragon Fairy Steel core because you're also a Dragon type. So there's that synergy there, but more on Torkoal a little bit later when we start doing some soft team building. But in terms of like other movesets, again, let's go down the list here. Besides just Hydro Steam, you are a special attacking Dragon type, so Draco Meter is always really nice. So that goes there. It gets some interesting physical moves too. Like it also gets like Aqua Jet. So you might even consider like Aqua Jet, just to like self-proc some weakness policy stuff into like Armor Rouge, which I could totally see this Pokemon being on there because like Indeedee Armor Rouge Torkoal cores with Walking Wake sounds like an idea. So there's that. This thing gets Dragon Dance, which is actually pretty cool. So it's a nice good setup move, but unfortunately, we are not a physical attacker, so that doesn't really help us there. So we're gonna have to look elsewhere here. It does get Chilling Water, and I can see this on like some bulky supportive sets where like again you're just neutering physical attacks by one stage, and then it's a stab, special attack. So it's going to do a big chunk there, right? You do have Flamethrower, which is actually really good. So good coverage here with like Dragon, Water, and Fire type attacks. And again, you could also make this into consideration of Terra Fire, which would also help you resist the fairy damage. Okay, so there's an idea there. And then, you just deal super effective damage back into, other Pokemon. And then with Torkoal, right? Now your Flamethrower is doing like extra damage, right? So I can totally see the synergy here with these three coverage moves. Okay, then if I keep going down this list here, it does get Hurricane, which is what I was referring to earlier. So I can totally see Hurricane coming into like potential rain teams possibly, and then even like consider Terra Flying. But then I don't know about the Terra Flying part. But again, you could definitely consider Hurricane, if you want to put it on Pelipper teams. So there's an idea there. Okay, again, Outrage, that's a physical move. It does get, I believe, well, these are all like, again, physical. Like Breaking Swipe, again, good physical move, good tech option, but, we're a special attacker, so maybe it does merit something a little bit, but, it's a bit of a stretch. Dragon Breath, Dragon Rush, probably not going to be used. Does get Mud Shot. Now, that's interesting because, again, that's a little bit more speed control. Not very, very strong base power, but again, that defeats the point. We're just going for that speed control coverage. So you could also consider Mud Shot here. Does get Snarl, and again, I really like this because now what you can consider is now the Assault Vest sets where you do run Snarl, and then you're just a bulky Snarl user. Think Incineroar a little bit, but not really Incineroar, of course. Very, very different. And then that's pretty much it here. So, there's a couple sets you can run here, like a more offensive set with either the Boost Energy or even like a Life Orb, where you can just run like offensive sets like this and then just have Protect in the last slot. I could totally see something like this being a potential set. And again, in terms of like EVs, you can make this slower, but bulkier, and then still have like Modest Nature where you're still getting like a special attack boost. So there's the benefit there with Walking Wake. And then again, in terms of like soft team building ideas, I can already see like Indeedee coming into this play. That's Indeedee male. So Indeedee over here. Then you consider like Armor Root stuff, and then Torkoal, and then Walking Wake, right? I would just use this as a 4 to like start my core for my team. Where again you have like 2 Trick Room setters, maybe even just one of them, whether it be the Indeedee Armor Rouge. Then you have Torkoal coming in from the back. After your Trick Room is set up, potentially getting it in. And then Walking Wake, you can also pivot your Torkoal in and out just to like benefit from photosynthesis, and then just going for bigger damage, because you're getting the special attack boost, right? So there's the idea for like one kind of Sun Core with Walking Wake. What you can also consider is putting it on a rain team with something like Pelipper, and then you can consider changing this set to maybe even like Hurricane, for example. Okay, because now you have 100% accurate Hurricanes. Then something like Amoonguss can probably come here because, I'm just thinking of like Palafin, Pelipper, Amoonguss as a core, but then you can just swap the Palafin for like Walking Wake, for example. And then maybe like some other strong special attacker, maybe even something like a Flutter Mane, and then some other physical attacker like an Iron Hands, for example. This could work. These two have always been on like a typical rain team, like with the Pelipper and the Amoonguss, so no reason why it doesn't work here. And then just like some aggressive Tailwind setter here besides the Pelipper. Maybe even like, I don't know, who else can set Tailwind here? Or something like with Trick Room. Maybe even just put Trick Room on the Flutter Mane in something like this. And just have like some other filler option over here. But like, this is the core that I would run with, right? Because, you have to consider like, Walking Wake, Pelipper, Amoonguss, weak to the Iron Bundle. Water Dragon typing makes you like 4 times weak to freeze dry, so you have to consider that. But this is also why you run the Iron Hands, to like, kind of mitigate that weakness or have some answer for the Iron Bundle. So I would just consider something like this, and then just maybe have like an Arcanine over here, for example, or some other Steel type like maybe King Gambit. But that's the idea that I would try and consider if I had to like run a rain team potentially with the Walking Wake. But again, it's a super cool Pokemon. There's lots of sets that you could run. Like again, we just mentioned like in a booster energy set, you can run an Assault Vest set with something like Snarl over here, Snarl, and then maybe even something like Chilling Water, where you're just going for like damage reduction, you reduce attack damage, and then Snarl reduce special attack damage, and then you still have like Hydro Steam and Draco Meteor for like your 2 big damage moves over here, right? And Hydro Steam, despite the fact that it does 80 damage, it's not like that great. So you might even consider Hydro Pump as one of these other moves. So like maybe Snarl and Hydro Pump with an Assault Vest set. I could totally see that. And again, the accuracy is a bit of a bummer, but again, it's still a good high damage dealing move, especially with like this base special attack stat. So there's an idea there. But again, you can also run Life Orb set, more or less the same way as like Booster Energy, where you're just running Protect in your last slot, and then just have good coverage here with like Flamethrower. And then you could put like the Booster Energy on something else if you had some other Paradox Pokemon on your team. But yeah, I mean, there's like a whole bunch of different sets that people are gonna try. I could even see like dual weather teams with like Pelipper and Torkoal. I know someone's gonna try that on ladder potentially, right? So that's the idea there with Walking Wake. So hopefully I gave you some ideas to maybe try when it is officially legal, when they do release it. Right now it's just all like speculation and stuff. I can't even pull up Pokemon Damage Calculator to try and like show some damage calcs. But in terms of like an EV spread, I can give you some ideas where maybe you can potentially try out. So I definitely want to go Modest Nature here. Let's just assume Booster Energy. All right, and just as like a bit of a speed tier, you could go like maybe this much, 138. This already outspeeds like Modest Goldango, for example, and then just dump a whole bunch here into like special attack, like 196, and then just have like 191 in terms of like optimizing sand chip damage, a little bit, and then just like divide up this 112 into like defense and special defense somehow, where like you're trying to cock for something. I'm already thinking of like physical damage from like Roaring Moons and like Garchomps and stuff like that. But if you just want to go like max HP like this, or even just like even like this much, and then just split up the defenses like this, even this is like passable, okay? But if you wanted to like optimize for a little bit of the sand chip, then just do something like this. All right, as an example, just like a very bulky Modest set that it can also do well like under Tailwind. So this is one idea. Or if you want to do something like an Assault Vest set, again, I would just make it like super bulky, something like this, right? Actually, more or less like this Assault Vest set would more or less stay the same. Like just have Snarl here, and then you can have the option of running like Flamethrower or something like Chilling Water, just like a supportive set that's still meant to do like a lot of damage. It really all depends on how you want to use the Walking Wake. But again, I'm just giving you like some ideas. Again, I'm having an even number here in the Assault Vest set. Nice, good boost in the special attack. Now again, because you have the Assault Vest and not the Booster Energy, you're not going to get the special attack bonus. So take that for what you will. But again, at least you're relatively bulkier in terms of like an EV set. If you want to be a little bit faster, so some other ideas, like if you had the Life Orb or even the Booster Energy set, I'll just put Protect here and then Flamethrower again. If you want to be a little bit faster, you could go, again, let me take away all this bulk here. You could go up to like 150. This is like outspeeding Modest Goldangos. I'm not Modest, Timid Goldangos, for example. And then just going up to 189 over here, and then just a little bit of bulk, both ways, something like this, just as an example, and maybe even split up like this. So there's an idea there. Or you could make it so that you outspeed base 100s. So you could go with Timid Nature here, if anything. Actually, can I go 176 here? Am I able to reach it? I can't reach it, so that's unfortunate. So if I were to like try and outspeed base 100s, I could go something like this, where like I have 168. This would do the trick. But then if I want to like outspeed potential Garchomps, for example, maybe something like this, and then with whether it's the Life Orb or Booster Energy, I'm just gonna go like max a little bit. Where is it? Optimize life. If this was a Life Orb set, something like this, right? Yeah, this would be like a timid life orb set where I'm just outspeeding base 100s, having a little bit of bulk, just for life orb optimization, then just like a lot of special attack. But again, I'm not going to get like too heavy nitty on the EVs, right, until I have the damage calculator, because I want to see how my survivability ends up. But again, just giving you some ideas. You can outspeed base 100s. You can go for that 138, 150 speed tier for as an example, or something after +1 that you could potentially outspeed. You have a lot of flexibility because you're very fast, so you can sacrifice some of the speed for extra bulk, which is always good. And there's no real like calc for your EV spreads, right? But anyway, that's what I have in terms of like some ideas for Walking Wake. Now we're gonna take a look at the grass version. All right, let's take a look at iron leaves. Okay, so I want to talk about iron leaves now. Now, before we take a look at some move sets, I want to take a look at the typing. Grass Psychic. So unfortunately, unlike the Walking Wake where the Water Dragon typing was like good synergy, but the Grass typing doesn't really do a whole lot for it. It just makes things a little bit worse because now you're just adding weaknesses. Okay, look how many weaknesses you got. You're weak to fire, you're weak to ice, you're weak to poison, and now you're also weak to flying. These are all like the grass weaknesses. But now you add the psychic typing, and now you're weak to bug, you're weak to ghost, and you're weak to dark. The psychic typing doesn't do anything for the grass. Okay, you're just adding 3 more weaknesses, and that gives you in total of 7 weaknesses. 7 weaknesses. Okay, you have some resistances like psychic, resist ground, you resist fighting, grass, electric, water. Sure, okay, you have some resistances, right? But 7 weaknesses. Thank God for terrestrialization. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't get that much play. All right, because first of all, you get intimidated anyway by Arcanine stuff, and maybe even potentially Incineroar later on. Who knows? But you're gonna get intimidated. You have all these weaknesses. Terrestrialization is an option, but like, how big of an option is it? Okay. So that's the one thing that I give the W over Walking Wake, right? It's got the better typing for sure, okay? But that being said, it does get a signature ability called Psyblades, which again has an interesting knick-knack to it where you get a boost in the electric terrain. Now, the thing is, unfortunately, we don't really have anything giving electric terrain unless your name is going to be Miraidon, because not really anybody's using Precursion because it's not that good. And then you're just boosting other Pokemon with Quark Drive, which is also the problem with Torkoal a little bit, where you're just boosting not only your own Walking Wake, but then other Walking Wakes as well, and other things that have photosynthesis, like a Great Tusk, like a Roaring Moon, for example. So it gets a little interesting. But in terms of like synergy, at the very least, you're able to at least boost this in Psychic Terrain because it is a Psychic type move, even though it does get boosted in electric terrain. So that's the interesting thing there, where it's a move that gets boosted in 2 terrains. But in terms of like the stats, all with the type aside, 90 base HP is pretty good. 88 defense is pretty good as well. But the special defense is also really good. 108 is really, really nice. So it's very good on the special defense end. 104 speed, again, just like Walking Wake, you're able to outspeed base 100s. And you're faster than Garchomp at the very least. So it has that going for it. 130 attack is very, very good. Okay, and even though there is Intimidate, you're able to offset that not only with just your adamant nature, but you do get access to Swords Dance. And thank God it gets Swords Dance, because other than that, this thing is just gonna get smacked by Arcanine stuff. So at the very least, we can always change our terrestrialization. From grass to something else to resist like fire type attacks. But Swords Dance is a very good saver, and I don't know what else I could run here, but it does get some interesting moves. Now it does get Calm Mind, but again, we're not special attackers. Brick Break is an option, to break screens. What else do we have here? We do get a strong bug move, Mega Horn. That's interesting. Good against dark types, which is something that we're weak to, so we can kind of counter that a little bit. Does get Night Slash, but again, this is like just coverage moves. Not really anything going for it. Swords Dance, again, like we said over there. Trailblaze is interesting, right? It's a physical move, and it gives you a speed boost, so that's also nice. It's an active form of getting +1. That's an option. Does get Aerial Ace. I remember that. This used to be like Max Airstream when you used to run like the Swords of Justice. Does get Ally Switch, and it does get access to its own electric terrain, so that's also interesting. Helping Hand support move, okay. Leaf Blade is also a good strong grass move. I could see that coming over here. in terms of like, grass coverage, your grass stab. Okay, what else do you get besides that? These are all special attackers, psychic terrain, quash. This thing gets quash? Oh my goodness. Has quick guard. Okay, interesting. Sacred sword is also really good against like other potential dark types. So if you did have to run a sacred sword assault vest set, then that could be an option. Smart strike, steel coverage, solar blade. You could also put this on potential Torkoal teams, but I don't know how good that's going to be. X scissor, bug coverage, workup raises the user's attack and special attack by +1. Okay, so you can boost your attack, but then again, why would you use that over Swords Dance? So maybe something like this, where you have just like Side Blade, Leaf Blade, Swords Dance, and then maybe even like either Sacred Sword for extra coverage, or just simply protect. Or if you don't want the Swords Dance and you just want Sacred Sword for fighting coverage, you could do that, and then just run some like Life Orb set here, as an example. But again, just off the top of my head, you could just outspeed the base 100s. You could also go with like a slower build here. Just aim for something like this. Again, that 138 benchmark. Optimize your Life Orb chip, something like this. Maybe 179 if anything. Right here, 187. Then you have 136 EVs left to play with. You could just do something like this as a raw estimate. But again, I'm not trying to do anything until I have the damage calculator and I can see if I can survive like maybe Roaring Moon Throat Chop, other potential dark moves, Arcanine Flare Blitzes. These are all things I want to take into account, and I'm definitely going to be investing in like HP and like some defense, and not like fully maximizing my attack, because like I have potential Swords Dance here, right, as an example. So there's that. You can even consider like Clear Amulet so you don't get intimidated. But these are just like some options that I'm thinking about here when in terms of like Iron Leaves. But like for sure, Walking Wake is like the clear winner. But this isn't bad either. Like I do like these stats. These are very good stats. The typing is bad, which you're gonna have to like change with terrestrialization. But there are some ideas with Iron Leaves. Okay, it is fast, so it can definitely be on some balanced teams where like you have an aggressive grass type, because we don't really have that right now, and we're relying on terrestrialization to give us that. But this is just a natural, good, strong grass type that just unfortunately suffers from so many weaknesses. But something like Tyranitar also suffers from a lot of weaknesses. But again, it's like super meta, and it's like one of the top 15 used Pokemon right now, just because you are able to change its Terra type with an Assault Vest. So I could imagine something like that with Iron Leaves this time around too, because it has some pretty good coverage moves here. But I think one of the real benefits is like something like Swords Dance over here, and maybe even something like the Trailblaze, the speed control stuff. So it's an option. Okay, I'm not saying this is not an unusable Pokemon. I think it's okay, but I definitely think that the Walking Wake is the clear winner. All right, so those are my initial thoughts on the Iron Leaves and Walking Wake. Let me know what you think of both of these Pokemon, and if you have some other ideas with the Iron Leaves or the Walking Wake. But again, I just wanted to showcase them a little bit. At least now that Showdown has it, so maybe now you can start theory crafting if you want to do that, and get a little leg up. But I think it's still going to be a while before we see both of these within legal action. All right. But again, check out coaching on the channel. We've got a lot of people signing up for coaching because upcoming regionals are still on the way. We got Charlotte coming up. And some other online tournaments are coming, and people have been joining with the tier 3 sub. So if you want to build a team where I show you how to make EV spreads like this and just do like a full team build, definitely consider coaching on the channel. It's a tier 3 sub. You can find the link in the video description or in the comment section, where I also post the link. Every video has a join button, so definitely can consider that. But again, 3 different ways where you can access coaching on the channel. All right, we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out. And have a good night.